The Republic of Yemen. There is almost no other country on earth that possesses as many secrets and ancient legends as the Arabia Felix. Arabia, the content. The Bab Al Yemen, the gateway to the Yemen, is the entrance to the historic district of Sanaa, Yemen's capital city that is believed to date back to the 3rd century AD. Today, the streets and squares around the Souk al-Mil, a large marketplace in the center of the old town, are full of life like never before. In the last 30 years, Sanaa has experienced a huge growth in its population. Women are rarely to be seen in Yemen's marketplaces, and when they are, they're hidden from male glances by a protective veil. Islam still plays an important role in the daily cultural life of the people, including the traditional marketplaces that are almost exclusively a male domain. The colorful range of goods here is a celebration of the senses. Whether pomegranates or sacks full of nuts and succulent dates, this is where those who adore Oriental food can find everything they require. Farmers also sell their modest harvest here. Tomatoes of all sizes and colors, as well as up to 20 different types of grapes, can be found in the Souk al-Mil, that is the pulsating heart of the city of Sanaa. Despite the apparent frenzy that is to be found in the narrow alleys of the market district, all is well under control. Ancient laws and rules of conduct ensure that all goes smoothly and without trouble. The lanes around the market not only provide an atmospheric backdrop for trade, they're also a meeting place for the inhabitants of Sanaa. Chit-chat is not always centered upon business, but also all the news and gossip of everyday life. These men are shopping for cat. The Cata edulis foscalis plant plays an integral part in the lives of the Yemenis, as it is a popular drug. Its fresh leaves have a stimulating effect, even though it seems as if this camel also has a liking for it. Even dromedaries are offered for sale in the souks of the Yemen. Only a few steps from these ships of the desert is a meat market, in which animals are butchered in full public view. Despite the high temperatures, there are almost no flies here, and the whole area is surprisingly clean. This section of the market also has its own strict rules, most of which came about in the 18th century. It's believed that their origins are actually far older and that they probably date back to pre-Islamic times. One of these permits a meat trader to purchase only as many animals as he can butcher in a single day. Any animals or meat not sold during the course of the day cannot be sold the next day. The laws here are strictly adhered to. The diversity of the goods on sale in Yemen's markets is truly overwhelming. They range from household goods such as various pots and teapots to garments, festive clothing and leatherware. Almost anything can be bought here. Naturally, many Oriental goods are on sale here, such as these original Arabian lamps that are made of clay. One lamp in particular, Aladdin's lamp, even burned its way into the pages of world literature. The curious gaze of children highlights the fact that the Yemen was for many years an isolated country that was closed to those from abroad. Today it's a country visited by travellers from all over the world. One of the features within the main market of Sanaa are these small workshops that specialize in the manufacture and repair of water pipes or hookahs. The shisha is one of the main national treasures of each and every Arab country. Even though Islam is the official state religion, a small minority of Jews also resides in the Yemen. Sanaa's Jewish quarter is also the silver market within its souk. The sale of artistically crafted silver jewellery has been a tradition here for many centuries. According to various written accounts, the history of the Yemeni Jews dates back to the 2nd and 3rd centuries BC. Their reputation as being the country's finest silversmiths has benefited the lives of numerous Yemeni Jews, unlike the fate of various of their fellow believers who live on the poverty line. Those of the Bausani and Badi families have become incredibly wealthy due to their magnificent success as silversmiths. Here, silver is mainly worn by women, whereas the jambia dagger is a male status symbol. Today, the dagger is no longer used as a weapon, but as a symbol of social position that, again, is linked to various legal rights. Sanaa's souk contains the largest range of jambias and sabres in the Yemen. The manufacture of the jambia has caused much controversy with environmentalists and conservationists, as its hilt is quite often carved from rhino horn. Although the rhino is a protected species, large numbers of rhino horn continue to be illegally smuggled into the Yemen. Promptly, 5 times a day, the muezzin calls out to believers to come to the mosque and pray. This vocal ritual of the muezzins is known as the Aden. In Islamic history, it was Bilal, a freed slave, who called out the very first Aden. In the souk, there is a constant flow of people who are making their way to the nearest mosque. Suddenly, the streets become noticeably empty. Like something from an oriental fairy tale, the sprawling capital city of Sanaa extends in front of the spectacular Djebel Harraz mountains. The Republic of Yemen covers a large part of the southwest of the Arabian Peninsula. It contains several fascinating historical sites. East of Sanaa, on the ancient Frankincense route, is the town of Marib. It was once the residence of the legendary Queen of Saba. And in the extreme north is the town of Sada, a region known for its powerful tribes. Most of the country's cities are surrounded by wilderness. Yemen's extreme climate and often infertile ground make it possible for only the most resilient plants to survive. The bottle tree, or euphorbia, is one such plant. But unlike Yemen's other desert-like regions, this area is also known as the Green Yemen due to its rich variety of flora. (2,200 meters high), the Djebel Harraz gives its name to the whole of the surrounding region. The unspoiled and natural scenery here is a real paradise on earth. But this region has not always been as unpopulated as may appear, because the Harraz mountain range was once of great strategic importance. The famous Frankincense road once led through this area that was thus protected by several fortresses and small villages. The ancient caravan routes are still in use today and have also been made suitable for motor vehicles. This winding road is still important even now. Each day, several trucks make their way along the mountainside. They contain various goods that are being transported from Sanaa to the important harbour of Hudaydah on the Red Sea, and vice versa. However, despite its improvements, the road is still not without its hazards. Today, frankincense is no longer transported here. But in former days, this dried resin that is still used as a fumigant formed the basis of wealth for many kingdoms that were located along this ancient route. The Kingdom of Saba also owed its legendary wealth to the frankincense trade. And the land that flanks this caravan route on the Djebel Harraz has been cultivated for thousands of years. Here, the donkey has always been an important pack animal. Away from the main roads, the terrain is totally unsuitable for cars and other motorized vehicles. In these tiny settlements, life continues as it did in bygone times. Mechanization has not yet been introduced here. Chaff and straw from the millet stalks is dried out in the heat of the sun. Everything is done manually and as close to the buildings as possible. As in the cities, the village houses are also packed close together. The flat roofs of the houses are well suited to the drying process of the millet. At one time, it was mainly the coffee bean that was grown in this region. The ancient and famous harbour city of Mokha was once an important distribution centre for coffee. Since then, the cultivation of numerous types of grain have replaced the coffee bean that is now grown in various other regions of the world. These atmospheric buildings and the men who work according to age-old traditions are reminiscent of the Middle Ages. Rural life here is a truly fascinating sight. Visitors to this remote settlement are few and far between. Thus, the children show much interest towards outsiders. The dried grain is taken down from the roofs and placed in sacks that are taken to the markets of the surrounding cities and villages. The entire family is included in this work. Life here is hard and the rewards next to nothing. Most Yemenis live extremely modestly. The flowering period of the former kingdom of Saba is long gone. The close relationship of the local people to their centuries-old traditions is not only to be seen in their work methods, but also in their clothing that throughout the Yemen is worn with great pride. The mafrach is the best room of the house. It is in this splendid room that male guests are received. This is the place of tea drinking, the hubble-bubble, and the chewing of the green-leafed cat. Cows, sheep, and goats are the country's main farm animals, and the harmonious coexistence of both man and beast is a natural part of everyday life. As with all those who live in the Djebel Harraz region, this family also belongs to the Ismailite community, an Islamic Shiite community that came to the Yemen in the 12th century and whose origins lie in Iran. In this mountain region, cat is considered to be a luxury. This farmer does not depend on the cat markets of the cities in order to obtain his supply of this socially acceptable drug. He can obtain it on home territory. As the Ishmaelites were persecuted under the religious rule of the Zayditic Imamate, they were forced to escape into remote areas such as the Harraz Mountains. Over the course of the centuries, several small communities developed here. Although the women here enjoy a fair degree of independence when compared to other regions in the Yemen, they're expected to contribute to the physically demanding work of the land. Unfortunately, foreigners are not always welcome here. The rural life of Djebel Harraz is not unlike many other agricultural areas of the world, with one exception. Farm machinery is non-existent here. is as though the slopes of this isolated mountain region have remained unchanged for more than a century. Shepherds still watch over their sheep and goats and lead them to remote waterholes. For the goat, the merciless rocky terrain is not a problem. On the contrary, it's their ideal habitat, as can be seen from their natural antics. The Yemen is a geologically active country. Several hot water springs indicate the subterranean forces that are still present on the tectonic Arabian plate. In primeval times, the southwestern region of the Yemen was connected to the Horn of Africa, till this area was divided by the fracture zone of the Red Sea. The country's geographical proximity to the African continent can also be seen in the Djebel Harraz, whose inhabitants have transformed several mountain slopes into productive terraces and fields in order to survive. Even though there are now no active volcanoes in this region, volcanically extinct mountain summits are a clear indication of the geological past of the Yemen and of the South Arabian Peninsula. In the center of the Djebel Harraz is the picturesque mountain village of Manakhah. Due to its location, it was once a strategic point on the ancient trading route between the sea and the highlands. The breathtaking architecture of its buildings still testifies to the former prosperity of the village that today is well known for its popular market. A fort that dates back to the Turkish occupation of the 19th century is now occupied by the Yemeni military. Even though many of the children from the rural areas are forced to work alongside their parents, in Manakhah, there is a small school. Here, children can learn the fundamentals of both reading and writing. The surrounding areas of Manakhah are also influenced by agriculture. But where once the coffee bean was grown, the terraces now contain khat. This traditional drug is far more profitable. The street snakes down from the highlands to the coastal region of Tihama. As its name suggests, Tihama, or hot earth, is one of the hottest places on earth. Here the average annual rainfall is around 100 millimeters. This latitude, vegetation is a rare commodity. Despite the extreme climate, there are still signs of life in this 20 to 70 kilometer wide coastal area of the Red Sea. Close to the harbour of Hudaydah, an old ship is gradually rusting away. However, the financial situation for the 200,000 inhabitants of this, the second largest port in the Yemen, is not in such poor condition. Hudaydah was once the most important Turkish harbour on the Red Sea. The city was a commercial rival of the British-occupied city of Aden to the south, which during colonial times was of great importance in securing a sea route to India. In addition to the recent modernization of the harbour, the fishing industry still plays an important role here. The fertile coastal waters of the Red Sea still ensure a good catch. The south of Hudaydah is the legendary old harbour of Mokha. These ruins are a reminder of this former centre of the coffee trade, from which the world-renowned Mocha coffee derived its name. Herds of sheep have now replaced the once legendary caravans of the past. The decline of the harbour town of Mocha began in the 17th century, after both the French and the Dutch established coffee plantations in Asia. In contrast with the desert-like regions of Tihama, some areas have a very hot but humid climate and amazingly fertile land. Even though the living conditions here are far from easy, this coastal area is not only inhabited by animals, but also by people. Dromedaries are a common sight. They're owned mainly by nomadic families that have roamed this land for thousands of years. Indeed, 10% of the entire population of the Yemen are nomads. But as with their counterparts elsewhere in the world, their numbers have diminished in recent years. Its geographical proximity to Africa is particularly evident in the coastal areas of Tihama, which contain a strong influence of Africa. Even the clothing of these nomads is more African than Oriental or Arabian. Despite the changes that have taken place here in modern times, the undemanding dromedaries still play an important role in the everyday life of the nomadic peoples of the Yemen. The domestication of both species of camel dates back around 3,500 years. These ships of the desert that are known both for their endurance and their modesty serve not only as a means of transport. Their milk, meat, fat and even their wool and hide are utilized by man. The adult camel can carry up to 400 kilograms on its back and can travel as far as 50 kilometers a day. The men of this tiny nomadic settlement like to show off their exceptional riding skills while they balance on the backs of the animals that are laden with palm wood. The beach of Al-Luayya is in stark contrast to the mountain world of Djebel Harraz, a place that along with Mocha was also known as part of the country's past coffee trade. Today, only a small fishing village remains. The occasional crab can be seen wandering along the deserted though beautiful beach. There's no trace of tourism or industry here. The natural beauty of the inland regions can also be found here at the coast. There's plenty of time for another ration of cat. The fishermen quietly patch their nets for the next trip on the Red Sea, while the blazing sun gradually sets and transforms the already beautiful scenery into an impressive natural backdrop. The final beams of sunlight transform the color of the water and paint it with a golden sheen. Arabia Felix, Arabia the Content. And in the face of such splendor on the Red Sea, along with the traditional fishing boats, the name Yemen takes on a new significance. Returning inland to the Djebel Harraz region and close to Yemen's capital city of Sanaa are some of the country's most spectacular and most beautiful settlements. As can be seen elsewhere, numerous multi-story buildings cling to the hillsides. Various minarets rise up into the sky. Apart from their multi-story construction, the most striking architectural characteristic of these buildings is the simple yet highly decorated design of their facades. When in public, most Yemenite women of the surrounding regions of Sanaa wear a shashaf. Their all-black clothing consists of a long skirt, cape and a headscarf, which is worn as a veil as soon as they exit the house. The status of women in public places differs from region to region. While the women of Tihama in the south of the country are allowed to work in the markets and remain mostly unveiled, the women in the northern regions, such as those of the Zayditic people, adhere to a far stricter code of conduct. Traditional windows are highly detailed and are featured in the most important areas of the house, illuminating each room with a colourful and magical light. The children of this mountain village appear to be happy despite their country's desperately poor economy. In recent years, the rapid growth of the population has become a major problem, although the density of the population is only around 26 inhabitants per square kilometre. That Yemen has not always been a poor country is evident in the Wadidar and the former palace of Imam Yacha that is situated 20 kilometres northwest of Sanaa. Located on a rock, the spectacular royal summer residence is probably the most photographed building in the Yemen. This richly decorated palace in Wadidar, with its many traditional and ornamental decorations, dates back to the 1930s and has become one of the country's most famous tourist attractions. The green valley of Wadidar is not only used for agriculture, but it has also developed into a popular bathing resort. A relaxing place for one and all. cultivation of millet is very common in the mountain area of the Djebel Harraz, as this type of grain can thrive in relatively poor soil. In addition, millet has a very short growing season, and this enables the farmers in this part of the Yemen to harvest it twice a year. Millet was probably the first type of grain to be cultivated anywhere in the world. According to scientific research, much seems to indicate that the origin of millet can be traced to Africa and East Asia. Even at the time of the Babylonians and Etruscans, millet was one of the staple foods. It was also grown in the Kingdom of Saba, that in around 1000 years BC was one of the oldest civilizations in today's Yemen. Even though the country's agriculture does not appear to have developed much since the Middle Ages, the harvests here are remarkable. In order to compensate for the lack of farm machinery, the entire family, along with various livestock, are actively engaged on the land. The work is hard and the conditions hot. Thus, the protective glasses worn by this man are particularly helpful in protecting the eyes from dust. A traditional scarf that covers both the nose and the mouth provides the farmers with additional protection. It's amazing just how much a donkey can carry. The use of donkeys in agriculture has a long tradition. They became domesticated far earlier than the horse. The Nubian wild donkey was tamed by man in Egypt's Nile Valley as early as 4000 years BC. The donkey was also domesticated in ancient Mesopotamia, and according to archaeology, the Etruscans once used donkeys that originated from Anatolia, is today's Turkey. The donkey is not only used for drying millet, but also as a pack animal. The men take a short break. Coffee has been a popular drink for more than 1000 years. Originating in Ethiopia, the coffee plant was eventually introduced to the peninsula. For some time, the consumption of coffee was frowned upon by the Islamic mullahs, and coffee houses were prohibited. But the triumphant success of the coffee bean was not delayed for long, and its ban was soon abolished by the Sultan of Cairo, a great coffee drinker. High up in the north of the country, not far from the Saudi Arabian border, is Sada, a town that is quite different to those in much of the Yemen. It was here that a special form of Islam was introduced, and one that has survived to the present day. Around 3000 years ago, Sada was the capital of the Minians, a community of traders who possessed several commercial settlements along the Frankincense road. Yet the predecessor of today's town fell in around 950 BC to the Sabbateans, which gave rise to the subsequent kingdom of Saba. As in many other regions, it is the women who are responsible for the external appearance of the houses. So it is not unusual to see women carrying building materials on their heads. The construction of a Yemeni house is based upon a traditional design. The ground floor is used for stabling, the floor above employed as a storage space. As there are no windows at this level, the rooms and stairways are very dark. The next floor contains a living room. The bedrooms are located on the upper floors. And then there's another floor with a kitchen and a roof terrace. The uppermost area of the house is the mafrach, an elaborately decorated reception room in which only the men congregate to smoke, talk and chew cat. The building materials are always the same, and air-dried bricks form the basis of these, probably the first high-rise buildings known to man. On each floor of the living area, there's a bathroom and WC that is situated at the side of the house and situated opposite to the direction of Mecca. The toilet is covered by a wooden lid and leads into an opening that runs down the house to ground level. This is only used for excreta, as the urine is drained into a gutter that leads outside through a small hole. This permits the opening to be kept dry and there is little odour. When the hole is full, the contents are removed and used as agricultural fertilizer. As for many centuries, this country kept its doors well and truly shut, has only opened them in relatively recent years. Foreign faces are still an unfamiliar sight to the Yemeni population. The country is still in a state of severe financial crisis. Poverty makes the families live close together. This in turn has created a seemingly unstoppable increase in the population. With no money today, the hopes of the people lie in the next generation. Sada is the most northern provincial capital of the Yemen. Despite the town's long history and many architectural treasures, its inhabitants are faced with an almost impossible problem to solve. As in most other parts of the country, the groundwater has receded to a perilous level. Only around 35% of all households have direct access to drinking water. But despite this, the town of Sadah, with its many beautifully decorated houses, has an exotic and magical atmosphere. Several men have gathered in a square. Despite their sabres and knives, this is not the scene of a battle, but a public performance of the traditional Jambia dance. The men are rehearsing for a special social event. In a few hours, an important tribal meeting will take place outside the town of Sadah. The significance and status of various tribes and clans is to be seen in many aspects of the town's daily life. From within the traditional robes of the men, there's sometimes a teasing glimpse of Western attire. The fast and rhythmic Jambia dance is also an excuse to show off a traditional sabre. This particular dance, that is usually used for special occasions such as weddings and religious holidays, is now being performed in preparation of a tribal meeting. The dance, the drums and the characteristic high-pitched singing increase the air of excitement. The curved Jambia dagger is the most traditional male status symbol in the Yemen. It also features in various pre-Islamic portrayals of men. A Yemeni boy is regarded to be a man when he has reached the age of 11 or 12. From this age, he's allowed to wear his own dagger that has usually been handed down to him from his family, or a new one bought for him by his father in the local souk. The younger spectators show great interest in the dance, as they'll also soon be performing the Jambia in public. It's time to resume the journey. After a short drive, the dusty roadway changes into a paved road that leads straight across the desert. The truck is packed full, a clear sign of the importance of today's meeting. Several dozen men have travelled from Sadah to take part in the desert celebrations. The influence of each clan is also clearly visible by the number of men climbing out of each of the trucks. Today, the northern Yemen is influenced by two large tribal organizations. The recent civil war contributed to the fact that the tribes loyal to the king were able to retain their positions of power. Hundreds of men have gathered in the desert for this meeting. Finally, the circle diminishes and the ceremony can begin. The tribe is led by its most important member, the sheikh. His position is usually passed on within the family. When the sheikh eventually dies, the members of his tribe elect the oldest and most worthy son to succeed him. In some cases, the power is handed over to a son during the lifetime of the sheikh. This usually occurs only if the sheikh has grown too old or infirm to lead his tribal community in an appropriate manner. Today, the leader of the Al-Hashid tribe is the most revered sheikh in the Yemen. His army of 100,000 is more well equipped than that of the regular army. His voice is not only one of great political importance, his tribe is the most influential in the Yemen. The performance of the traditional Jambia dance is the prelude to the tribal meeting in order that it can begin in a festive manner. only a few decades ago, the presence of Westerners here would have been unthinkable. It has only been since the 1970s that outsiders have been permitted to travel in this intriguing country, and one of the most fascinating in the Arabian Peninsula. The Yemen has attracted people from each corner of the ancient world for thousands of years. People who have travelled throughout the country with caravans full of frankincense and who laid the foundations for the great wealth and cultural zenith of the legendary kingdom of Saba. Despite their present poverty, the people here are a proud race, and the ancient name of the Yemen, Arabia Felix, or Arabia the Content, is still a thing of the present.